Italian name for the town in which Radikon lives. The Slovenian name is Stavrion. So the barrel on one side said San Floriano del Collio, and on the other side said Stavrion.
And a border right through the middle of it.
Where does the fruit come from?
Comes from Sonoma Mountain, adjacent to the vineyard that the LSB and the Prince came from. A little bit higher up, much more loamy soils. It's a different geology, and it's 5 tons the acre instead of 1.5 in the case of the first. And this is another wine that when the fruit came in, I was really dissatisfied with the fruit quality, and particularly the intensity. And so it got the same treatment that the Sauvignon Blanc got. It was crushed and then bled, but it was bled to a very high degree. It's about a 30% bleed. It's Pinot Grigio, fermented in a new oak puncheon. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's shocking.
Yeah.
With skins?
Yeah. 30 days of skin contact. No cold soak at all, a slower fermentation. In fact, if I recall correctly, there was no temperature manipulation at all, neither heating nor cooling.
That was another question I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. It's interesting because I would have guessed it was a red wine with sort of modest pigment that dropped out.
Right. Like a Gamay or something like that. Yeah.
Or sort of low colored Pinot.
Yeah.
I
Or
think of actually
Nebbiolo.
I know. I was thinking because this reminds me of some Grenache I've had from Pfifferling. Do you know the producer Pfifferling?
Nope. So I'm going to make you guess one more thing: the alcohol. And I mentioned that in connection with the Grenache because of similarities in my mind that it has with some Grenaches.
Yeah, 17.2.
17.2.
Are you serious?
Yeah. 17.
Yeah. Well, I knew it was on the table somewhere, and so that was a.
No, there's one more. There's a 16.96 coming. Yeah, 17.1. Went dry.
Wow.
And there's another wine where I thought I'll let it do whatever it wants to do. I didn't add any water to it, and if it was going to be sweet, it was going to be sweet, and it wasn't. Just went dry at 17.1.
So what'd you do with the juice that you blend?
Threw it out, which is what I usually do. This year we saved some bleed wine and we made really good rosé from it. So it's it's kind of painful when you see that you can make good wine from it, but there might be 10 or 12 white wine fermentations going on at once, and to be working with waste product and hoping that it comes out at the same time, it's like you have to at some point draw a line.
Yeah, right.
I mean, there was a time when Johanna was doing fermentation monitoring when you had 20 fermentations.
Easily,
Yeah.
So the decision not to water it down is water back. Excuse me.
Right.
Water back.
You're correct.
What was I thinking? Was why?
The fruit was somewhat lacking in intensity, and I just bled the shit out of it anyway. And I thought there are, precedents for high extract, though not skin contact, but high extract and not dry Pinot Gris in the world from Alsace.
Sure.
So, go for it. I mean, I had no idea what this was going to turn into. I really didn't think it was going to be a red wine. I'm really surprised at the way that it's held its color.
Yeah.
So this was 30 days in a new oak puncheon, and then into a 30-gallon barrel, and only for 7, 8, or 9 months, something like that. Bottled, unfiltered because it went dry, and it went through mellow.
And where was it when it went through the mellow?
I don't know, to tell you the truth. I just know that, when I got close to bottling, it was time to check on the wine to see what you had to do to it. It was ready to go.
That's a pretty wild wine.
Yep.
And there's no doubt about it. I mean, it's got some alcohol in it, but
Yeah. But it's not right to call it hot. It's a very powerful wine. Paul Greco, not traditionally a fan of high alcohol wines, bought all of it. I mean, I sold some to my mailing list, but whatever went into circulation went to him.
Can't say that finish isn't hot.
Okay.
But it does, I mean, it's really hot.
But
Come
I'm
on.
kind of
But
beaten
it's-
down.
But it's funny because it isn't an immediate impression, and it really is only on the finish. And so, if you're eating the right things, you can sort of compensate for it. Or just accept it as it is. But there's so much prettiness in it that it's.
Pretty tannic, but
It is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is pretty tannic.
yeah.
It's pretty
But it's
fun.
so odd because it has peach skin characteristics and not just Cabernet tannin or something like that. It's a very different kind of tannin.
Yeah.
Did you say it was whole cluster or not?
It was crushed
Crushed
into a new
into
oak
a-
punch, and so no, not
Okay.
whole cluster. But that's a very good question. I do whole cluster fermentations with red fruit, and I think in fact it's not like I even thought of doing it whole cluster and decided against it. It didn't even occur to me. Just I went with something a little bit more direct.
The aromatics are really fascinating because it's, I mean, initially putting your nose into it, I think of some older German wines where you get a little bit of boot polish